Now, from the House Energy and Agricultural Committee's Florida Congresswoman Cammack. Congresswoman, welcome. Thanks very much for being here. You just heard what was said. People will die. Your reaction?
I just want to know if they're, preaching to us from their private jet or their yacht. I am so sick and tired of these elitists who sit there and lecture us while they fly to Davos on their private jets. They want us to throw money at the Paris Climate Accord because that's always been their answer. Throw money at something so that they feel better about it, but it's we the people that suffer. And we know that these ridiculous regulations have really not done much in the way of making our environment cleaner or safer. It's industry that drives this initiative. And we all know that if you want a thriving economy, you have to have sound environmental policies. They, at risk of sounding like a bumper sticker on the back of a Prius, they can and have to coexist. But the left has never been about that. They've always been about grow government programs so that they stay in control. This regulatory rollback is massive because at the end of the day, American families up until this point have been paying $15,000 more a year up against historic inflation just to comply with the regulations that are currently on the books. This is a massive win for American families and industry and the environment.
Unbelievable. Meanwhile, the president's policies are working. The crime is falling dramatically across the country under Trump's aggressive law and order presidency. New data shows homicide rates plunging nationwide, down better than 50% in some major cities like Florida. And the president says it's all due to his tough on crime policies. Watch this.
Murders are down and crime is down. It's got the lowest point in 125 years, the year 1900. And that's a big, big number. And the country's doing very well.
Your reaction, Congresswoman?
Listen, President Trump doesn't play. He is very serious when it comes to law and order, as we all know. Just look at the open border crisis under Joe Biden, where we were seeing thousands and thousands of people being trafficked across the border every single day. And then those criminals pouring into communities and committing acts of violence against American citizens. This is what law and order looks like in America. And this is on top of the FBI cleaning up their reporting systems. Keep in mind how under the Biden administration, they weren't even reporting all of the numbers coming in from different municipalities and cities. This is incredible to see this much of a decline. But while we're seeing a decline in crime against American citizens, we're seeing an increase on violent crime against law enforcement. And that is in Minnesota, other places like California, Illinois, that the amount of crime and violence coming up against our law enforcement, particularly federal law enforcement, is astounding, which is why we have to back the blue more than ever. So I think that Americans are waking up to what's happening, and that's going to be reflected in the midterms.
Yeah, well, we'll see, because, the president has talked a lot about this. The Speaker of the House is looking ahead to the midterms. Do you believe these policies are resonating with the people and that you will actually pick up seats in November?
Listen, as we all know, the margins are very tight right now, but the most persuadable and likely individual to vote in these midterm elections are independent women. And women are not single issue voters. We care about strong communities, and strong communities are rooted in strong families. That means we really care about crime. We want to make sure our families and our kids are safe. We care about education. What President Trump has done in returning that education authority back to the states, that's a huge step. Getting those borders closed so that we don't have an influx of millions of illegals in our country, that is a huge step. These are all things that we care about as voters, and it is going to be women in this midterm that are the difference makers, and whether we keep the House and the Senate or not. But women, as I talk to them across this country, they love what President Trump is doing because it is setting up their kids for success to make sure that they have an equal shot at the American dream, and they know that he wants equal opportunity for all Americans, not equal outcome.
Meanwhile, Congresswoman, after fraud, waste, and abuse concerns in multiple blue states triggered the Trump administration to claw back hundreds of millions in funding, Colorado, Illinois, California, Minnesota are now suing the administration. They claim they need to restore more than $600 million in public health grants, arguing the move is political over their immigration policy. Your reaction?
Well, these are the same states that are suing the USDA and Secretary Brooke Rollins because they don't want to turn over the data of all of the food stamp recipients that they have. Meanwhile, they're happy to take a check from the federal government, but they don't want any strings attached. It doesn't work that way. These states that have their hand out are the first ones to turn around and sue when they don't get their way. They are constantly in violation of federal law, and they have no problems taking federal dollars. This has to change. And I think you have someone in the White House who's not going to take it, and collectively his administration isn't going to take it either. So you can't have it both ways. If they want the funds, then they've got to actually follow the law. Otherwise, they can pony up. But people in Florida are not going to be paying for the programs in California if California will not comply with federal law. It goes back to President Trump is the president, all about law and order.
All right, Congresswoman, we will be watching your work. We so appreciate your time this weekend. Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you so much.